Mother, her original name was Nirmala Sundari Devi, was born in the village of Kiora district, Tripura, in 1818 Saka era, which is the equivalent of 1896 April the 30th, in the early hours of Friday, 1 hour 12 minutes before dawn. The place of her birth has recently been acquired. When she went to Kiora on the 17th May 1937, she, being pressed by her devotees, indicated the exact spot where her body first touched the earth. Her father, Bipin Bihari Bhattacharya, was a descendant of the well-known Kashyapa Brahmin family of the village of Vijayakut in the same district. His early life he passed in the house of his maternal uncle. Both mother's father and mother, Mokshada Sundari Devi, had very kind and loving natures. Their devotion to God, their simplicity and standard of social life were almost ideal. The maternal house of mother at Sultanur Pura had a very high social status for a long time. There were many learned pandits and devotees in the family. The report goes that a pious lady of the same family mounted the funeral pyre of her husband, chanting hymns merrily. Mother was married to Sri Ramani Mohan Chakravarti, later known as Bolanath, in the village Antapari in Vikrapur when she was just 12 years, 10 months old. He belonged to a well-known Bharadwaj Brahmin family of that village. His life was dedicated to the welfare of people. He was afterwards known as Baba Bolanath, or Rama Pagla, or simply Pitaji. Mother's early life was spent unnoticed in the villages of Kiora and Sultanpur. Her marriage, she passed some time in Sripur and Narundi, where the elder brother of Bolanath, her husband, worked. Some months were also spent in her husband's house at Atpara. Before she came to Dhaka, she had stayed for about 3 years at Vijayakut and for about 6 years at Bajitpur with her husband. At Astagram was first manifested prominently mother's liking for kirtan songs, a musical mode of devotional song introduced by Vaishnava poets, saints, and composers. At Bajapur, the mood was noticeable only at times, but the dominant tone of her mind during this period was the natural expression of mantric symbolism and yogic practices. These various phases of psychic evolution of life with the corresponding transformation of the physical vehicle. When she came to Shahbag at Dhaka, the state of her quiescence and silence continued. But then a phase of intense peace and tranquility became the all-pervading feature of her life. It is difficult to convey in words an idea of the depth of that state. During this period, what an interplay of divine thoughts and expression became manifest in all the ways of her life. At this time, many of her devotees began to flock round her. Many of them took part in worship, devotional songs, and sacrificial rites. It is difficult to describe the ways by which their souls became steeped in tranquil bliss in her presence. All people would at this time address her as Mother of Shahbag, and would express their delight by saying that such a wealth of Mother's grace they had never enjoyed before in all their life. While at Bajapur, the whole history of the Sileshwari Kali temple at Dhaka had dawned upon her mind. During her residence at Shahbag, Rai Bahadur Pran Gopal Mukherjee, who has since retired as the Postmaster General, was at Dhaka. He and Sri Bal Chandra Basak found means for the preservation of the Sileshwari temple. When I met Mother first, she gave me a hint, saying, "Your appetite for the spiritual is not strong enough." But to one tossed about by the turmoil of worldly desires, such craving for higher life was not possible, unless one could learn how to direct all the uncontrolled waves of one's emotions and impulses towards her feet. I would always pray silently in the secrecy of my heart, "O Mother, you manifest yourself as hunger in every being. Awaken in me a real hunger for things immutable and everlasting." How Mother, in her infinite mercy, directed my ever-fluctuating dispositions towards her all-pervasive presence is narrated below. One night I was walking about on the open balcony of my house. There was a glitter of moonlight on all the objects about me. I perceived some movements by my side and turned round. I found to my amazement an image of Mother gliding along with me. She wore a red chemise and a sari with a series of thin red lines for a border. But when I left the ashram only a couple of hours later, I had noticed on her person a white chemise and a sari with only one broad red border. So this made me doubt the correctness of the vision. But when I went to her early morning on the following day, I found her dressed exactly like what I had seen in the preceding night. I was told that a devotee came to the ashram after I had left and made her wear those clothes. When Mother was told about my vision, she said in a most natural way, "I went to see what you were doing." One day, Mother came to my house and conversed with us on the first floor. Just then a car arrived to take her to another place. I did not know that it had been arranged previously. Mother got ready to start, but I felt great anguish to find her leaving my house after such a short visit. With a sorrowful heart, I came downstairs to see her off. She got into the car, but it did not move though the driver gave the indication to start. She was looking at me with her face beaming with a genial laugh. When the driver failed to move the car, a hackney carriage was brought for her. It was painful to think that Mother would have to go in a hired carriage when the car stood ready. Just at that moment, the car became and moved to my surprise and joy, and Mother left. The pressure of crowds at Shahbag increased from day to day as people came to know about Mother. On one occasion, I could not meet her in the course of 4 days. On the morning of the 5th day, I had resolved to go to her, but changed my mind. I sat down in despair in my room. I saw to my surprise the full image of Mother appearing on the wall opposite, like a film picture. She looked quite sad. On turning round, I found Sri Amulyartan Shudari standing by my chair, and he said, "Bhaiji has sent a carriage to take you to her." When I reached the Shahbag garden, Mother said, "I have been noticing your restlessness for the last few days. Peace and tranquility cannot come unless there is some restlessness in one's mind to start with. You should kindle fire by any means, either with clarified butter or sandalwood, or even with straw. Once alight, the fire burns on. All worries, darkness, and gloom gradually disappear. It will burn to ashes all obstacles. You know, a spark is sufficient to start a conflagration, reducing hundreds of homes and palaces to cinders." At noon in the office, or at midnight in my bedroom, when a very strong desire to see Mother made me quite restless, I found her appearing before me on many occasions, and she once said, "You call me, and I have come." One afternoon, when I returned from office, I was told an unknown person had left a large fish in my house, saying that he would come back shortly. But nobody turned up. The fish lay upon the floor. When nobody appeared till dusk, it was cut to pieces and sent to Mother at Shahbag. The next morning, when I went there, Pitaji told me, "Your mother said to me last night, 'Look here, Jyotish is my god.'" On inquiry, I came to learn that on a previous morning, a few persons got Mother's prasad, that is, the food that is left from the Mother for people to take, that she distributes among the devotees. But when in the evening many people came to take part in kirtan or devotional concert, they all desired to have Mother's prasad. There was no stock of provisions. Just at that time when Mother was preparing spices, condiments for cooking, my servant Kagan came with the fish and other necessary articles. And this evoked from her the expression stated by Pitaji, "I was struck with surprise." And Bolanath added, "To hear how an unknown person had brought a fish to your house and how it could be sent with other necessities to satisfy the devotees clamoring for Mother's prasad." Such incidents were numerous. At Shahbag, a man was praying for some prasad from Mother, and there was nothing available there at the time. Just then a desire impelled me to send some fruits or sweets. When my man reached there with the things, he found that Mother appeared to be waiting for them. One night at 3 a.m., I was wide awake sitting on my bed, and it flashed upon my mind that Mother was sleeping with her head in a direction opposite to what she knew accustomed to. At dawn, when I went to her, I found her exactly in the same position. On inquiry, I learned that Mother went out at 3 a.m., and on returning, she changed her sleeping posture. It often happened that from my own room or from my desk at the office, I could see distinctly what Mother was doing at her place. I could see things without any effort of my will. At times, such pictures flashed across my mind without my ever thinking about them. Bhupen used to go to Shahbag every day, and I could verify the truth of my visions through him. There was hardly any discrepancy. Mother would often say to him, "Your real home is at Shahbag. You go to your own house just for an outing." One noon, I was busy at my desk, and Bhupen came and said, "Mother has asked you to go to Shahbag." I had informed her that the director of agriculture would take over charge of the office that day on the expiration of the leave, but Mother replied, "You are to carry the message to Jyotish. Let him do what he thinks proper." Without a moment's hesitation, I left all the papers spread out on my desk, and without informing anybody at the office, I started for Shahbag. When I arrived there, Mother said, "Let us go to the Siddheshwari ashram." I accompanied Mother and Pitaji. There was a small hollow, just where now stands a small pedestal and a Shiva lingam. Mother sat inside the hollow, and her face was beaming with a smile, breathing radiant joy. I exclaimed to Pitaji, "From today we shall call Mother by the name Anandamayi." And he at once said, "Yes, be it so." She only glanced at me with a fixed gaze. When we were about to return at 5:30 p.m., Mother inquired, "You were all along so full of joy. How is it that you now look so pale?" I replied that the thought of going home had made me think of the unfinished work at the office. And she said, "You need not worry about it." The next day I went to the office. The director said nothing about my absence on the previous day. I asked Mother why she had called me so unexpectedly the day before, and she said, "It was to test how much you have gone ahead during these months." She added with a genial laugh, "If you had not come, who else would have given a name to this body?" Once His Excellency, the Governor of Bengal, came to Dhaka. The director asked me to attend the office at 9:30 a.m., as he would go to pay a visit to the governor. I promised to come. The next morning I was late in returning from Shahbag, and when I reached the office it was 9:50. I was a bit nervous as to how I would meet my boss. When I was thinking about the matter, he phoned to me from his bungalow to say that his car had gone wrong, and that he was sorry to put me to trouble, and that he would go to the government house at 11. When Mother heard the story, she said with a laugh, "Is it anything new to you?" The other day you threw out of gear the car in which I was to leave. On one occasion, Mother came to our house. In the course of our talk, I said casually, "It appears, Ma, that to you, hot and cold are the same. If a piece of burning coal fell on your feet, would you not feel the pain?" And she replied, "Just test it." I did not press the point further. After a few days, taking up the thread of our previous conversation, Mother placed a piece of burning coal on her foot. There was a deep burning sore. For 1 month, it did not heal up. I felt very upset about that silly suggestion of mine. One day I found her in the veranda with her legs stretched out and her gaze fixed on the sky. Some pus had gathered on the sore. I bowed down and licked the pus up with my tongue and lips. From that following day, the sore began to heal up. I asked Mother how she felt when the live coal was burning her flesh. And she said in reply, "I was not aware of any pain. It looked like nothing but fun." With great joy, I watched what the poor wretched coal was doing on my foot. I noticed that at first some hairs and then the skin began to burn. It smelt of burn, and gradually the coal was put out after doing its work. When later a sore formed, it continued its course, but as soon as a strong desire arose anew that the wound be healed up soon, it took a rapid turn for the better.